You know what nobody tells you? The person sabotaging your dreams isn't your boss, your circumstances, or the people who doubted you. It's you. Right now, as you're hearing this, there's a war happening inside your head. And most days, you're losing to yourself without even realizing you're in the fight. Carl Jung spent his entire career studying this internal battle. He called it the confrontation with the shadow. But let me translate that into real life. You have two versions of yourself operating simultaneously. The version that wants to grow, change, and build something meaningful. And the version that's terrified of all of it, so it sabotages every attempt you make to move forward. Sound familiar? Here's the truth that's going to sting a little. Self-sabotage isn't random. It's not bad luck. It's not because you're broken or weak. It's a psychological pattern running beneath your awareness, and Jung understood exactly why it happens. Your unconscious mind is trying to protect you from change, from risk, from the discomfort of becoming someone new. So it creates obstacles, it manufactures excuses, it convinces you that tomorrow is a better day to start. And you believe it every single time. But today we're breaking that cycle. I'm going to show you the 5 psychological battles you're fighting against yourself, why you keep losing them, and exactly how to win. Not through motivation, not through willpower, but through understanding how your psyche actually works and using that knowledge to stop being your own worst enemy. Let's go. Battle number 1. The comfort zone trap. Here's what self-sabotage looks like in real time. You set a goal, maybe it's starting a business, learning a skill, getting in shape, whatever. You're excited, you're motivated, you take the first step. And then right when things start getting uncomfortable, right when you're about to break through to the next level, you suddenly lose interest. You find reasons why it's not the right time. You convince yourself you need more preparation. You quit. Not because you're lazy, because your unconscious mind just activated its defense system. Jung called this identification with the persona. Your persona is the comfortable identity you've built over years. It's who you think you are based on your past. And your unconscious will do everything possible to keep you locked in that identity because it feels safe. Even if that identity is limiting you, even if it's keeping you small. Think about someone like Jim Carrey. Before he became one of the biggest comedians in the world, he was broke, living in a van, completely unknown. His old identity said, "You're a struggling nobody." But he made a choice. He wrote himself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered, dated it for Thanksgiving 1995, and kept it in his wallet. He was literally fighting his current reality with a future vision. Most people don't do this. They stay comfortable. They stay stuck. They self-sabotage the moment growth requires them to become someone new. Here's what you need to understand. Every time you're about to level up, your unconscious is going to panic. It's going to flood you with doubt, fear, and every rational-sounding excuse for why you should stop. That's not intuition. That's not wisdom. That's your comfort zone fighting for survival. So here's how you win this battle. Recognize the pattern. When you suddenly lose motivation right after starting something important, don't believe the excuses your mind is generating. Instead, say this out loud. My unconscious is trying to keep me comfortable, but I'm choosing growth over comfort today. Then take one small action, just one. Send the email, make the call, do the workout. Show your unconscious that you're in control, not it. Remember, the version of you that achieves your goals doesn't exist yet. You have to become that person. And your old self will fight you every step of the way. Battle number 2. The projection problem. Let me ask you something. When was the last time someone really irritated you? I mean deeply bothered you, got under your skin, made you unreasonably angry or frustrated. Now here's the uncomfortable question Jung would ask. What quality were you seeing in them that you refused to see in yourself? This is projection, and it's destroying your relationships, your clarity, and your ability to grow. Here's how it works. You have parts of yourself you've decided are unacceptable. Maybe you think being emotional is weak, so you repress your emotions. Maybe you think being ambitious is selfish, so you hide your ambition. Whatever you disown in yourself doesn't disappear. It goes into your shadow. And then you start seeing it everywhere in other people. The person who constantly judges others for being lazy, they're avoiding their own lack of discipline. The person who hates people who seek attention, they're repressing their own need to be seen. The person who can't stand weakness in others, they're terrified of their own vulnerability. And here's where the self-sabotage happens. Instead of doing your own psychological work, you spend your energy criticizing, avoiding, or fighting with other people. You stay stuck in reaction mode. You never actually grow because you're too busy blaming everyone else for triggering you. Take someone like Kanye West. Love him or hate him, here's what's undeniable. The things people criticize most in him, his ego, his confidence, his refusal to stay quiet, are often the exact things they've repressed in themselves. People who are comfortable with their own ambition don't get triggered by his. But people who have been taught to stay small, they project their disowned confidence onto him and then attack it. You're doing this too. Maybe not publicly, maybe not loudly, but you're doing it. Here's how you win this battle. Next time someone intensely bothers you, stop. Don't react, don't rant, don't create distance. Instead, ask yourself, what am I seeing in them that I refuse to acknowledge in myself? What quality am I judging them for that I've repressed in my own psyche? This is uncomfortable. Your ego is going to resist. It's going to insist that no, you're nothing like them, they're the problem, but push through that resistance. Because on the other side of that discomfort is integration. And integration is how you stop self-sabotaging through projection. Write this down. The people who trigger me are showing me my shadow. Then thank them. Not out loud, that would be weird, but internally. Because they just gave you a roadmap to the parts of yourself you need to reclaim. Remember, you can't win the battle against yourself if you're too busy fighting everyone else. Battle number 3. The silence you're avoiding. Here's a hard truth. Most of your self-sabotage happens because you refuse to be alone with yourself. You fill every moment with noise, with distraction, with stimulation. Music, podcasts, scrolling, Netflix, anything to avoid the one thing Jung said was absolutely necessary for growth, confronting yourself in silence. Why? Because silence is where your shadow speaks. It's where all the things you've been avoiding rise to the surface. The grief you haven't processed, the anger you've been sublimating, the fear you've been covering with busyness. And your ego knows this. So it keeps you distracted, it keeps you moving, it keeps you anywhere except alone with your own thoughts. But here's what happens when you avoid silence. You become reactive. You lose access to your intuition. You make decisions based on other people's opinions instead of your own knowing. You self-sabotage because you're operating from unconscious patterns instead of conscious choice. Think about someone like Kobe Bryant, one of the most disciplined athletes in history. You know what he did? 4M workouts. Alone, in silence, no music, no distractions, just him and the work. He wasn't running from himself. He was meeting himself daily. And that's where his mental strength came from. Most people can't do this. They can't sit in silence for 10 minutes without reaching for their phone. Not because they're weak. Because they're terrified of what they'll discover about themselves if they stop running. Here's how you win this battle. Start with 5 minutes. That's it. 5 minutes every day where you sit in complete silence. No phone, no music, no distractions, just you and your breath. And when your mind starts racing, when uncomfortable thoughts surface, when you want to quit, that's exactly when you stay. Because that discomfort, that's your shadow trying to get your attention. That's the unconscious material you've been avoiding. And until you face it, until you integrate it, it will continue to sabotage you from beneath your awareness. Try this. Tomorrow morning, before you check your phone, sit in silence. Notice what comes up. Don't judge it. Don't try to fix it. Just observe it. You're training yourself to be present with discomfort instead of constantly escaping it. Remember, the battle you're avoiding in silence is the battle that's controlling your life. Battle number 4. The responsibility gap. Let me get real with you for a second. The biggest form of self-sabotage is blaming your circumstances, blaming your past, blaming other people, blaming the economy, your parents, your genetics, whatever. Because here's what Jung understood. The moment you give away responsibility, you give away your power. You can't change what you won't own. Most people live their entire lives in victim mode. Something bad happened to them, so they use it as an excuse for why they can't grow, can't succeed, can't change. And look, I'm not saying trauma isn't real. I'm not saying circumstances don't matter. But I am saying this, as long as you're blaming external factors for your internal state, you will never transform. You know who gets this? Oprah, childhood trauma, poverty, abuse. She had every reason to stay stuck, to blame, to play victim. But she made a different choice. She accepted radical responsibility for her life, not for what happened to her, but for what she did with it. And that choice changed everything. Here's where you're self-sabotaging. You're waiting for the right conditions, waiting for someone to apologize, waiting for life to be fair, waiting for permission to start building the life you actually want. And while you're waiting, you're giving all your power away. Jung would tell you you created this, maybe not consciously, maybe not intentionally, but your unconscious patterns, your unintegrated shadow, your avoidance of responsibility, these things are shaping your reality. And if you created it, even unconsciously, that means you can change it. Here's how you win this battle. Stop the blame game. Today, right now, every time you catch yourself blaming someone or something for your situation, pause. Then ask, where am I avoiding ownership here? What choice do I actually have that I'm pretending I don't? This is brutal. Your ego will hate it, because your ego loves being the victim. It's comfortable, it's safe, it requires no change. But your growth, your transformation, your freedom, all of that lives on the other side of radical responsibility. Write this on your mirror. I am responsible for my response. Not for what happened, but for what you do next. For how you show up. For the meaning you make. That's your power. Remember, the battle for your life begins the moment you stop blaming and start owning. Battle number 5. The honesty problem. Here's the final battle, and it's the one most people lose without even knowing they're fighting it. Self-deception. You lie to yourself every single day about what you want, about what you're actually doing, about who you're becoming. And those lies create a gap between your conscious identity and your unconscious truth. Jung called this split the source of all neurosis. I call it the reason you keep sabotaging yourself. You say you want to be healthy while you eat like garbage. You say you want financial freedom while you avoid looking at your spending. You say you want deep relationships while you stay surface level with everyone. You claim you're working on yourself while you avoid every uncomfortable truth your psyche is trying to show you. This isn't hypocrisy. It's unconsciousness. Your ego is protecting itself from the discomfort of change. But the cost, your wholeness, your authenticity, your actual life. Think about someone like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He talks openly about his depression, his failures, his struggles. He's not performing strength. He's being honest. And that honesty is what makes him powerful. Because when you stop lying to yourself, when you stop maintaining an image that doesn't match your reality, you free up massive amounts of energy for actual growth. Here's how you win this final battle. Start asking yourself the questions you've been avoiding. What am I pretending not to know? Where is my behavior contradicting my values? What am I doing that I would judge in someone else? What do I claim to want that my actions prove I don't actually want? These questions hurt. They should. Because they expose the gap between who you say you are and who you actually are. But that gap is where all your self-sabotage lives. Close that gap and you close the door on self-sabotage. Try this tonight. Write down one truth you've been avoiding, just one. Don't fix it, don't judge it, just acknowledge it. I say I want X, but I'm actually choosing Y. That acknowledgement, that honesty is the beginning of integration. Remember, you can't win a battle you won't admit you're fighting. So here we are, 5 battles. 5 ways you're fighting against yourself. The comfort zone trap, the projection problem, the silence you're avoiding, the responsibility gap, the honesty problem. Jung spent decades helping people understand these patterns. And the answer is always the same: integration. You don't win by suppressing your shadow. You don't win by forcing yourself into disciplines that contradict who you are. You win by bringing the unconscious into consciousness, by owning your projections, by sitting with your discomfort, by accepting responsibility, by speaking truth to yourself. This is the work. This is what stops self-sabotage, not motivation, not inspiration, but the daily practice of becoming more conscious, more integrated, more whole. You versus yourself. That's the real battle. And the beautiful thing, you have everything you need to win. You just have to stop fighting for your limitations and start fighting for your transformation. The question is, are you ready to stop sabotaging and start integrating? Because your life is waiting on the other side of that choice.